Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday Sunset Safari, a quiet contemplation of the week that was and the week that is to come. We have some starlings there, a mixed flock of greater blue-eared and Cape glossies. My name is James Hendry. I'm waiting for the strap. Have I been strapped, do you think? Do you think I've been strapped yet? Ah, good. And on camera today, Senzom Kiza, who is wearing a shirt, the magnificence of which I can barely describe to you. It has a lion underneath an acacia tortillus tree on it, and it is in the manner of, well, what I suppose we'd call here a Mandela shirt, wouldn't you, Senzom? Is that correct style? It even has tassels underneath it. It really is a thing of haute couture. I think that's the correct term. We also have David Gitu joining us on this vehicle. On the other car, we have got Stivovo. I think he's heading towards Tandy, being filmed by Sebastian. And on foot today, we have got Ralph Kirsten. No gaiters for him today. It was very tough to actually make him go out. He's convinced he's going to be savaged by ticks. He's probably correct. And he is being filmed by David Eastor, the other David. So many Davids around the place at the moment. My plan is probably to go down towards Chitwa Dam and see if we can't find the Avoca Males that were around there today, as explained to me by David Gitu, who has now learnt where Chitwa Dam is, which is a good start, I'd say, after just a few days here. Okay, let's have one last look at the birds. The reason I stopped at these birds is that they tend at this time of the year, as we go into the winter, to start to flock for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Nobody really knows why, I don't think. But in the winter time, they tend to flock much more than they do in the summer, probably because they're not breeding, and so they are not particularly competitive over mates or territory. So I think that's what's going on there. Alrighty, we're going to make our gentle way down towards Chitwa Dam on the Sunday afternoon. A bit blustery, apparently around about 27 degrees. I don't think it's quite that hot. It's 71, is it 71? Was it 7? I think that's what he said, 75 odd actually, Celsius, Fahrenheit. Right, before I waffle myself into a hole, let's go across to Mr. Ralph Kirsten on his large, ungated feet.
Well, thank you, James, and I tell you what, yeah, I'm not going to be getting bitten by any ticks today. Welcome aboard on the afternoon bushwalk. I say welcome aboard, but we're out on foot, and what a wonderful day it is this afternoon. A little bit blustery, as James has said a little bit earlier, but it's quite warm. It's definitely not cold. Now, my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Davy. How's it, Davy? Please don't forget to join us in the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments and get involved on this reality bushwalk. Now, the first thing I wanted to do was obviously get up a termite mound, because that's the best thing to do when you're out in the bush. Get a little bit of height, scan the area, see what's around, get your ears out, get your senses working, let your eyes feel for any movement. And the first little bit of movement that I spotted was on one of my favorite trees out here in the field, and it was actually in this little hole that there were a couple of squirrels that I think have made their home in here. Now, they were having a family tiff, and some of them scuttled off into the grass, and I think there might be one or two of them down there at the moment. But what a wonderful tree this is. Have a look at it. It is so characteristic, and this bark of the leadwood, or the Combretum imberbe, and leadwood being very indicative of how heavy the wood and dense the wood is. And these trees can live for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and once they die, they remain as such for pretty much the same as long as they've lived, so hundreds if not thousands of years. So squirrels and vultures and lizards and all sorts of animals will use this as their home. And so for me, one of the special characters that we do have out here, it's not all about the spotted cats and the lions and the hyenas. We've got to look a little bit closer at some of the big characters that they've been through it all. They've seen world wars come and go, they've seen people come and go, they've seen different animals move in and out, and well, elephants, they're not going to be pushing this guy over. And so I think I really like the leadwood. Now, I think we're going to see what small little things we're going to be finding today. I'll always be happy if I can find some hyena tracks, and we'll try and follow up and see if we can find that elusive hyena den. But let's see what we can find. In the meantime, off to Steve. I think he wants to say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing this afternoon? My name is Steve Falkenmuch, and I'm joined on camera by the impeccable Sebastian, and we are out on drive. And guess what we are going to go do? We are on our way to where Tandy was this morning. I have not seen her or Tlalamba in a very long time. So apparently Hyena Ralph said there's a little bit of meat left on the Steenbok this morning, so hopefully when we get there, we're going to see her. So we're very excited. Please don't forget to send through your questions. Hashtag Safari Live, or follow us on the YouTube stream. Either one will do. Ooh, okay. I wasn't expecting to see that. But this is clearly where the Avoca Males came through last night. Let me just move over. Can you get it just there, Sabi? Okay, we just saw a track. Just going to jump out real quick. Can you see that? Okay, so we had them right up in the north last night on the show, right up of Buffelshoek Dam. They probably came walking straight down sort of this western sort of side and all the way straight through. As I mentioned this morning when we were looking for all sorts of tracks, just behind us is the Mawati, where this other tributary joins it, very dry riverbeds at the moment, and it's the highway in Djuma at the moment. All the cats are moving through. So I'm on Bateleur Road. I thought I'd just come up here on our way to Tandy, and I don't think anyone drove here this morning because they would have seen these cats, all these tracks. But needless to say, they were found this morning anyway, and you got to see them, which is marvelous. But we are going to continue on. Sorry for that quick stop. Beautiful big male lion track. And there's more in the roads. Yes, definitely the three boys that came down south. Ali, very good question. The Birmingham boys seem to be dominating the entire Sabi Sands at the moment without any competition. We're right up in the northern Sabi Sands, and so the Avocas seem to be carving out this piece of territory. So I don't think anything will become of the Avocas of the Birminghams. If the Avocas establish here, they just might sort of push the Birminghams down a bit. They've got plenty of space to maneuver in. They're being a little bit greedy, to be honest. They're taking up as many lion prides as they can, as much territory as they can, which is unsustainable. I mean, if you look at the Roman army back in the day, it eventually lost because it was too spread out. You know, it's very difficult to defend a frontier that is enormous, that encompasses the entire Europe and East Asia and North Africa without some expense. So the four males need to patrol regularly. If they can't patrol, they're going to lose out those territories, because territory holders need to be active in those areas. And I mean, we don't see the Birminghams often enough for me to think that they could hold on to this. But obviously something happened in the south. The males moved out. I don't really know the dynamics too well. Oh, look at that. There's a cuckoo. Looks like a Levalance cuckoo, I think. Just over my shoulder here. A little bit of a late bloomer. You see the stripes on the chin, on the chest. The beautiful crest. That long black tail. There we go. Levalance cuckoo. They like to parasitize on the Aramark babblers, I think. Aramark babblers. He's still over here. And he's obviously a late fledgling, and I doubt he's going to migrate back north with the rest of the cuckoos that have already left. So he might be stranded here and overwinter. And I wonder if he's going to enjoy a diet of something other than caterpillars, which is what the cuckoos enjoy. Okay, well, we're going to continue on. As I said, heading into the area of Tandy from this morning. And in the meantime, let's go to Mr. James Hendry and see how he's doing.
Oh, I'm doing fine. I am doing as I was doing before I saw you last. I am looking for animals. That is what one does on a game drive. And enjoying the general atmosphere of the autumn. There are two interesting birds here. The first one, however, is the most colourful. And that is the orange-breasted bush shrike calling from this gardenia bush over here. Is now desisted, obviously. There it is. Okay, since it's gone into the edge of that combretum bush there. You see it there? You see it at all? No, it's to the right, left of that. Left, yeah, that bush. Right in there. The green bush. No, I think that's about right where it was. But it's obviously gone now. Can you see the oriole perched upon the tall tree beyond? Go back a little. What a hopeless effort from me. No, the oriole's still there. It will now fly away as we focus on it. Yeah, very nice. Bright yellow, juxtaposed with the bluish hue behind it. And that is the black-headed oriole. Slightly less fancied cousin than the European golden oriole and the most beautiful oriole, which is the African golden oriole. The African golden is basically just a flying blob of gold. James, you say that's very beautiful, and obviously that's not me, that is somebody watching the show called James, beautifully named person you are. You say it is very beautiful. They're certainly one of my favourites, and I think they've got the most lovely call too. They've got a horrible alarm call, and goes, wah, wah, but they've got this gorgeous liquid kind of, sounds like molten liquid being dropped. I'll play it for you if you like. Would you like that, Senzo? I thought you might. That's why I suggested it. Here we go. Isn't that lovely? Oof. Beautiful. Whistling liquid call. And just now, I'm sure it's going to give us the alarm call, which is very unpleasant. Well, this bird is an insect eater. You can see that from his beak. And he's not a shrike. And Lily, there are probably about... Oh, I'll tell you. Shall we go through the list of the shrikes together, Lily? You can then count them. We've got the lesser grey shrike, and the red-backed shrike, and the white-crowned shrike, and the grey-headed bush shrike, the orange-breasted bush shrike, the magpie shrike, the Retz's helmet shrike, I suppose that could be a shrike, the white-crested helmet shrike, so that's 8. Then we also have the 2 chagra species. They're both shrike, so the black-crowned chagra and the brown-crowned chagra, that's 10. I'm going to have to start using my toe now. I think we may have run out of shrikes, which is a good thing, because I've run out of fingers. Shall we say 10 shrikes? I'm going to ask David to give me the book, just so that I can make sure. He seems to be sitting on my book. David, this book is very old, okay? If it has survived many, many years, and if it doesn't survive this game drive because you've been sat on it, I shall be deeply upset. Let that be a stern warning to you.
Yeah, you.
Lily, 1 second. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, let's see if I was right. Grey-headed bush shrike we have there. You got them there, Senzo? So we've only got 1 of those, and we've got 2 of the helmet shrike, so that's 2. We have the orange-breasted bush shrike, so that's 4. Then we have the 2 chagras, so that's 5 and 6. Then we have, the boo-boo shrikes, I forgot about them. Southern boo-boo, so that's 7. The fiscal, we can find that here sometimes, so that's 8. The Brew, I forgot about him too, that's 9. The Puffback, I forgot about him too, that's 10. Magpie Shrike, we said 11. Redback Shrike 12. White-crowned Shrike 13. Lesser grey Shrike 14. 14 shrikes. Lily, that's a lot of shrikes really, isn't it? Good, very nice question, thank you for that. I'm just going to go and have a little look around Treehouse Waterhole because Steve said he had tracks of a leopard around there yesterday, and so let's go and find out what Ralph is finding on his own 2 feet. David.
Well, everyone, I've just come to this area. It's sort of around the area of Rebecca's Road, Zoe's Road, because I've been intrigued. There's this silver cluster leaf forest here, and it's always nice and cool in this area as well because of how many trees there are in this area. And I'm pretty sure it's down to there being a lot of mineral salts in this particular zone because they like to grow on that. And the silver cluster leaf I'm talking about are these trees here. I know there's been a lot said about them, but this particular area here is where there is a lot of them, and it in fact is like a forest of silver cluster leaves. And as I was saying, a lot of mineral salts in the soil, and that's normally down to there being a seep line, so where the water's coming out and dispersing here in this particular area, resulting in evaporation and leaving behind all those mineral salts. So very impressive, and I just thought we'd come through and have a look. This one in front of us seems like it's starting to seed. It's got those nice sort of pink looking seeds on it. And a lot of the locals, they actually, along with the purple pod cluster leaf or the low felt cluster leaf, they actually make a very nice tea out of it. Now, I remember the other day we were watching the impala actually feeding on these leaves, which is very strange because it makes your mouth very dry. But like I was saying with Davy when we were out there, I was thinking maybe they're trying to, solidify their stomach a little bit if they've got a bit of a loose bowel. So that's what I was thinking, but I haven't spoken to anybody that knows any reason why the impala were doing that. They must know something we don't, but I think that it's definitely down to something like that. Now we always come through and have a look and just see if there's anything interesting about a particular tree. Jason, the tallest trees here in the Djuma concession itself, or in our traverse, are probably things like the jackalberries, some of the nyala trees, but I would say jackalberry probably being, next to the riverine areas, they're probably one of the bigger ones, and that's where we do get a lot of the biggest trees. We do have some nice big marulas. There's not too many baobabs. They seem to be a bit more north up in the Kruger Park itself. But here along this particular area, I would say definitely jackalberry, some nyala trees as well, and maybe some of the marulas, the false marulas too. As we go past there's another a weeping wattle. And do you know why it's called a weeping wattle, anybody? I'd like to know if anybody knows why it's called a weeping wattle. There's 3 trees that we call rain trees. One of them is the African weeping wattle. Another one being the apple leaf. The apple leaf with those very big leaves, I will show you one. And the other one being the bourbeen, the Scotia species. And they've all got particular reasons why they are called rain trees. And this weeping wattle, down to a lot of the flowers and things that drop off the nectar, as well as the Scotia tree. Also, when they're flowering, extreme nectar that drops off. But there's something very important about these trees, why they're really called the rain trees, because they get a spittle bug, which the larva lives on the branch, and they encase themselves with a lot of, it's like spittle. They make a foam around themselves to stop them from drying out. It's not the right time of year for that, but they make so much of this foam that it drips off of the tree itself. So if you walk underneath, it can feel like it's raining. So those 3 trees being the rain trees. Steph, good answer there also. Thank you for joining us on the walk, saying that the leaves turn down when there's rain or rain on the way. And obviously when they do turn down like that, then it also collects a lot of rain and starts to pour off of those the leaflets. So compound leaves, very interesting. The 3 rain trees, remember those, the bourbon, the African weeping wattle, and the apple leaf. That's very interesting about those 3 trees. So, we're on the road here that we're just jumping onto now. We're going to see if we can pick up on any hyena tracks and what else is around. Okay, while we head off and try and get some tracks, I'm also going to get back into this silver clusterleaf forest. It seems James got a very big animal to show you. Off to him.
Well, here is a small herd of elephants, just 3 of them, as you can see. You can probably count to 3. And an unusually sort of small herd, and unusually led by a youngish cow. I find it always very interesting when there's a small herd like this, to figure out why there are so few of them. This is magic, people. To have them this close to us is absolute magic. And not reacting in a negative way at all, being very kind about being with us. Thank you. Don't do anything silly there. You just stay right where you are, lovely elephant. You're taking a legal photograph of you, throwing sand on yourself. No, coming right past. Oh, she's got a nasty gash in her tusk there. Isn't that fantastic? This is just brilliant. So I wouldn't say she's much more than maybe 20 years old, and I think she's pregnant again. Jamie, you say this is amazing. It is, and you know, some of the most profound experiences I've ever had out here have been with elephants like that. She's just watching us still. Now she's just giving a little bit of a head shake, so I'm not going to move. She's just kind of saying, stay where you are, let me get away a bit. Protecting her two... They can't both be her calves, I don't think. The smaller one definitely is. Now suddenly she's reacting in a manner that is fairly unpleasant. Well, not unpleasant, she just lifted her head and she's showing alarm. We'll try and show her to you. And I wonder if it isn't because the wind maybe switched and she got smell of us. But the wind is coming from the southeast, so it's coming from behind her. I don't think that's the reason. I think it was because she saw Senzel's shirt and she actually wanted it. Alicia, the only thing that triggered that reaction from that elephant is the same thing that triggers aggression in any other animal, and that's fear. There is almost nothing else that will trigger an aggressive response from an animal other than fear. And so she is feeling threatened by us. She is feeling that maybe her little calf is threatened by our presence. And so she reacted by doing that. David, why are you trying to contort yourself into a small... Kathy, you're wondering if this is a cow and 2 kids. I'm looking at them thinking that the older youngster, if you know what I mean, is possibly a little bit too old to be her calf. You see, I'd put that one at about 10. If she's 20, it's possible. She might be a bit more than 20. What's quite telling, though, is that the older calf has got very similarly shaped tusks to the young matriarch. And I wonder if that doesn't say something about a genetic connection between them. So it's quite possible that they're both her calves. The tusks of the younger one dead straight like that cow's. Got a bit of a wound on her backside. You see about the tail there? She's also got the same kind of thing behind her ears. Now that's either a skin disease or she's been spiked in the bum by, I can only think, a tusk. I'm always fascinated by small herds like this because I don't really understand how they form. She would have left a much bigger herd, or maybe her herd has kind of died around her, you know. She ended up as the oldest female in a small herd as the rest of the older females stopped giving birth and died off. Now you saw her moving her trunk around there, extending it towards us, and in fact all three of them did that. And yes, Becca, they are absolutely trying to smell you when they're doing that. That is the beginning of the nose for them. Just going to give them a little bit of distance. I don't want to give them a big fright. So nice to spend a bit of time with elephants. I'm looking at her now thinking she's not maybe as young as I thought she was. I think she's probably about 25, so that other one almost certainly her calf as well. Now I think that the older calf is a female. I'm not sure about that younger one. And Alicia, the older one, if she is a female, which I think she is, will stay with her mother, probably for most of her mother's life. And if the younger one is a little bull, he will move away eventually as he gets older. But he'll stay within this herd and with his sibling until he's probably about 14 or 15. But I'm going to see if I can get into a different position, and Stivovo has had some success.
Yes, we have, and we have found Tandy, and she's back up in the tree with apparently a steenbok kill. I can't really see too much of it, but there is no sign of Tlalamba. I think she's going to make me wait a little bit longer before revealing herself. The little bundle of joy was her old name. Now she's officially been named Tlalamba, the playful one. And Tandy is very relaxed. You might hear the sound of a vehicle. We have just been joined by one of the landowners from Buffelshoek. The typical leopard pose. Isn't that marvelous? So I'm going to put a little quiz out there to all of you wonderful viewers. You know I enjoy my trees, so I wonder who can tell me what tree Tandy is in. I wonder if you can tell me what tree she is in at the moment with her carcass. Hashtag Safari Live. And she's being shy. She's not showing her face at the moment. I'm super stoked. Seb is stoked as well. We haven't seen her. I can't remember the last time I saw her. I have seen her since I've been back from Kenya, but I haven't seen Tlalamba yet. Only on the screen, but that's not the same thing. I need to see her jumping around in the grass. And apparently Ralph said she kept bringing the carcass down the tree for Tlalamba to feed on. And then hyenas would come, and then she'd take it back up. And then she'd take it down and then back up and down, because Tlalamba was finding it difficult to eat it while suspended in the tree. Raphael, no, it's not a tamarind tree. I don't think we get tamarind trees here. And it's not a leopard tree either, folks, if you're going to guess that. It's a very common tree. If you've been watching my drives, you'll know we have spoken about it on many occasions. There's the leaves. Lynn, you are correct, but I'm going to let a few more viewers get the answers in. Lynn is 100% correct with her answer. It's a tree that we find so many times with animals shading underneath. Alan, no, it is not a marula tree. Very fine leaves. Very, very, very fine leaves. Lots and lots of shade. We've had the young Tamba up it with his kudu kill. His kudu fetus kill, should I say. We've had Hosana many times underneath them and in them. We've had the Unkuhuma pride with the kudu kill underneath one. See those pods? Dale and Paul, it is not an acacia. It has no thorns, but it does look like an acacia. Lynn so far has got it correct. Isn't that just the most marvelous light? We just need Tandy to turn her face a little bit towards us so you can get some marvelous screen shots. Molly, it is indeed the toilet paper bush, the poor man's toilet paper, bear in mind, not the rich man's toilet paper. So Molly and Lynn, well done. The toilet paper tree, the African weeping wattle. And it's a very important tree out here for shade. It is browsed upon. The pods will give you a bad tummy if you eat them. And the shade element that it brings, I mean, just in the time I've been here since January, how many times have I seen not only a leopard in them with the kill, but shading underneath them as well as lions. So very, very important tree. Definitely giving me a new outlook on these trees, and I'll never look at them the same. Whenever I see one, I'm always looking for the elusive spotted cat that's perched in the branches. Oscar, yes, Tandy knows me. I'm the newest member of the team, but I spent a lot of time with her in January, especially when Tlalamba was very young. It was about 3 months or so. We were very, very close to camp. We got to see her 2-3 minutes out of camp. She was there, and we got to see her almost every day. So very, very spoiled. I just got a whiff of the steenbok. The wind had just changed. It smells lovely. So Tandy is a very relaxed cat. Every now and again she can be quite moody, but I mean, that's just part of her personality. And we've had some wonderful sightings with her. And I'm hoping in the next little while, I'm sure she's going to make us earn it though. Little Tlalamba will come out of the woodwork in proper form, because the way she's positioned with this afternoon light, if Tlalamba goes up that tree, it's going to be gorgeous. Aiden, 7 years old, she climbs up there. She's got very, very sharp claws, and she is a cat. She's just a very big one, and they are very, very good at climbing trees. And that's not even a difficult tree to climb. I've seen leopards go straight up, probably vertically about 20 feet, straight up before getting to the branch. And I've seen them do that with a fully grown female impala in their mouth. So pound for pound, the strongest cat. Very sharp claws designed for grabbing onto branches, pulling themselves up, and also designed for pulling down prey much bigger than themselves. Andreas, no, I don't say I ever feel at risk, but every now and again you do get this feeling in the tummy. Like one time we had Tandy, we were parked pretty much as we are. Tandy walked behind our car and hoisted a warthog up a tree. And then, because we don't have any doors in the car here, and then Tlalamba tried to follow her, and then we got between her and Tandy, and she tried to walk around the car, and I remember turning my head and looking at Tandy, and she was about a meter from my foot. She was looking at me with a very unhappy look on her face, but we hadn't done anything wrong. Her cub and her just kind of walked around our car and gotten a little bit separated. And then she looked at me as if I was to blame. But yes, indeed, it made my heart race a little bit. These are still wild cats. I mean, we assume that they're never going to jump on the car. And it is the behavior that they have exhibited for many, many years. But there's nothing really to stop them from doing so, apart from the fact they don't see us as food. So as long as we can maintain that discipline and that balance, we are perfectly safe on the car. Marcy, I am looking everywhere, but I can't see Tlalamba. I'm sure she's lying flat somewhere here. I mean, there's lots of grass everywhere, lots of bushes. One thing I do remember, we were in this area. It was actually with you, Seb, the last time I saw Tlalamba. We were just up the road here, and Tandy had a kill. She had a warthog and a duiker and a waterbuck. She was just up the road, up a marula tree, and I mean, she was about 70 meters away from Tlalamba, who was 2 months younger than she is now, and she was just sort of on her own mission. And Mum would look and do that little call, and eventually she came back. But so I don't think she's too bothered by her. Leopards are very, very independent little animals, and she's probably messing around looking for some francolin or chasing ants or grasshoppers or something that young leopards do. But I wouldn't worry, but I'm sure she's here somewhere. Aaron, favorite tree species to see a leopard? Well, that's quite hard, Aaron, to see a leopard in a tree. It's all about, like, for example, these trees, these African weeping wattles are often very, very bushy, but the way she's positioned now makes it a perfect tree. But if she was on the other side, it would be a very bad tree. Marulas are often very, very good. Leadwoods are very, very good. And in my past time up in sort of the middle of Kruger, we saw a leopard in a dead leadwood, and that was probably the most spectacular thing. Not a leaf or small branch on the tree whatsoever, and a leopard just sort of lying there in this grey sort of crocodile skin bark with a very blue background. So I'd probably say a dead leadwood tree is my favourite to see them in, but just seeing a leopard in a tree for me is very special. It's a very popular and common sort of part of the Sabi Sands. If you want to see a leopard, this is the place to come. And you can almost pick the tree you want to find them in. I've seen them in so many different trees. Well, we are going to stay here in hopes of Tlalamba materializing and Tandy maybe getting up and showing us some activity. While we do that, let's go to someone who's walking vigorously in the bush, Ralph Kirsten.
Well, everyone, we're still on the lookout for anything special. It's a little bit quiet still in that just after midday, sometimes it can be a little bit quiet when it's quite warm out in the bush. But I'd like to ask you, what would you guys like me to look for while we're out here on the bushwalk this afternoon? I've spent so many years out here in the bush, and shame Davy is just trying to negotiate his way down that termite mound. Don't fall, Davy. And I've spent so many years out in the bush here that sometimes you almost take a lot of things for granted. So, and also, we feel sometimes that we repeat ourselves on many different topics. So I'd like you to throw some topics to me, or things that you'd like reminding on, things that you'd like new information on, whatever you like. Just as we're walking here, one of the biggest things as we're walking through the bush, it all just looks like grass, doesn't it? But we've got, if we can just stop right here, we've got a lot of different species of grass here. This one is the little blue grass that I've spoken about before, where the little blue waxbill uses that as nesting material. Okay, those little seeds give a little blue tinge to it. That's why it's called that. Not a very palatable grass, but still a grass all the same. Now, Alicia, I'm going to try and find you lots of cool little insects. I will do that. Another one here that we have, this is called finger grass, for obvious reason. You see what it looks like there, up like the fingers pointing up. Okay. So nice and easy, that one. Also not a very palatable grass. So once again, we're getting an indication that this is not a particularly palatable area for animals. And this one being the herringbone grass, looking very much like on the cartoons when a little cat eats a fish and he pulls the bone out, pretty much filleted and clean. So that's why it's called a herringbone grass, also not very palatable. And then the nasty buggers that we don't like, which also is one of the reasons why we wear gaiters, apart from the ticks, are these guys here. This is Aristida congesta, or the tassel 3-awn. Now it's waving around a bit. Tassel 3-awn, and it's called that because of these little seeds that they have there. They have 3 little awns on them. You see there? 1, 2, 3, as I turn it sideways. But it's like a little spear that goes into your socks. And very irritating. And look at the grass here. It is completely full of this stuff. So when you walk through here, these tassel 3-awns really get into your socks and really irritate you. So wearing gaiters is one of the things that really helps fight against that. Apart from the ticks, that's one of the reasons why we use that. And there's my gaiters, yes. And you can see these tassel 3-awns just sticking into my shoes as well. Lots of them there, starting to irritate me already. That part of my shoe isn't very well protected, but that's what we do. So, and there's Davy. He's got hardcore canvas ones. Rogue. He is a rogue man. Yes. Okay, and I hear that somebody's also looking for an aardvark hole. That's something that I'm going to look for. So 2 things I'm going to be looking for. Interesting insects and an aardvark hole. I think that's fantastic. So let's do that, Davy. That's the mission. Now, Beth, there's a couple of plants that are exotic and considered nuisances. One of them being the blackjack, which I think came over from Europe with the horses. And a blackjack in Afrikaans, we call it very descriptive, knapse kerel, which is they black seeds, quite similar to the Aristida congesta in their irritability that they give you, but very straight seed, black. And they literally stick on all your clothes, they stick on all your socks, and you've got to pluck them out quite a lot. And it's all these irritating plants like that are pioneers, but normally also alien, so brought across from other countries, that really become a problem. And their seeds are spread so easily because they normally get stuck on the wool of the animals. You know, in the southeast, in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where I'm from, we get this, it's a jointed cactus. So it's a cactus that grows very close to the ground like that, but it's got a lot of thorns on it. And as the animals walk past, those thorns go into their legs, and you almost don't feel it. But their legs can be full of this stuff, and then obviously they bite it and pull it out. But they spread that so much that it's really, really bad stuff. Another one being the queen of the night, which is also a cactus-like plant. Very tall cactus plants that you would think would come from Mexico. I think they might even come from Mexico. And they flower at night. So that's why it's called Queen of the Night. Very good for ornamental plants, and that's why they were brought over. But they also encroach into areas quite prolifically. Another one being the prickly pear. Very, very bad. The elephants love to eat it. And all of those cactus-like plants, as soon as you break a piece off of it, it falls on the ground, it can grow another one from there. So people think that elephants are eating those prickly pears and decimating them. It's far from the truth. That prickly pear will go through in their dung, and wherever they've broken a piece down on the ground, it will grow all over the place. So it literally, it spreads like wildfire. It's terrible stuff. Really, really terrible stuff. So there are quite a few exotic plants. Another one here that we get is a wild tobacco, which we generally find in the riverbeds, and it makes quite a pretty flower as well. Not good for smoking at all. I don't know why they call it a wild tobacco. I think it's just in the same family. Okay, I'm off to try and find some aardvark and interesting insects, and while we do that, let's head you back to Steve with Tandy.
It would be marvellous if you could find aardvark in the day. I've never seen that before, Ralph. Good luck. Here you can see the claws that she uses to climb up the tree. They are what we call, in lions and leopards, we call protractile claws. Some people mistake them for retractable claws. They're not retractable. They're able to be extended, which means they protract out, and then they go back in as its normal position. So by extending their wrist, they actually extend the claws out, and then when they relax, they come back in again. So not retractable, protractile. And there you can see she's revealing one of them for us now. Sorry, Lou, I only got the last bit of your question there. Ravinda, no, she's still got some up there. I can't see much of it. I wonder if you can see the leg behind her back leg. There we go. If you just punch in there, you can still see the leg of the Stenbok. Up. There we go. So there is still some up there, but we haven't seen too much of it. There's not too much. Apparently, Ralph, when left this morning, there was still quite like the hind quarters of the Stenbok were still visible. And for her still to be up the tree, kind of defending it, means there's still enough meat to see her through another little while. Kruger, Tandy is about 12 years old, I believe, somewhere in that range. She's been around for a long time, and she has been the mother to many cubs. So she is we'd call the new queen of Djuma after Kruger passed, who was her mother, I believe. Am I right, Seb? Yeah. Yes. So Shadow and Tandy. Shadow hasn't been seen in some time. They were sisters, and Shadow apparently hasn't been the best mom. I don't know how many of her cubs have survived, but Tandy's done very, very well. Very, very well over the years. But as Tristan has told me, Tristan is up in the Maranai, I said that Tandy's getting to the stage where she's going to stop breeding, and this might even be her last litter. So this last legacy of hers, Tlalamba, which is awesome because it is a young lady, and the young ladies are destined to stay within the area, and it means we'll be able to document and follow this youngster around as it comes of age and sort of moves into the space of her mother, the Queen of Djuma. Okay, well, we've got one of the big five that are not doing too much. Let's go over to someone who's got a big animal of the big five.
Oh, I think we're live. Hang on a second. Sorry. Oh, are we live? We've just gone live. Okay, good. Right, we'll carry on with our elephants. You, please, as you were, squeeze past by all means. Sorry about that, everybody. I was greeting some friends. I do have some. There they are. I do apologize for that. The elephants have just gone into a rather large thicket over here. No, that's not your fault. Luke's just saying sorry. It's my fault entirely. Let's get one last view of them. I've been sitting here trying to do what we call an end board for a school drive, and I mean, it basically means I just have to deliver 2 lines or so to the camera with the elephants in the background. You can't believe I talk for a living. You cannot believe how long it takes me to learn 2 lines of script. There we go. There's the cow. Our matriarch friend. Now there was talk of there being rain today. It's a slightly strange weathered afternoon. I don't think it's particularly wet. I don't think it's going to get wet. But there's definitely a front coming through. And I suspect tomorrow morning will be quite chilly. Now, I made the assertion that I thought this cow was about 25 years old. I thought the youngster was probably, that youngster I didn't actually give an estimate of. I think probably about 4. And Paula, you're wondering how I managed to do that. Well, what you do, Paula, is you count the veins on the back of the ear, and that gives you an idea. Senzo, I can't believe you actually believe me as well. I'm talking rubbish. It's just through guessing, Paula. It's through guessing and experience. So I've learnt from people who'd been out here for much longer than I had, and I'd say, how old is that elephant? How old's that elephant? And they'd tell me. And basically that's how I guess. And so it's very inaccurate. I mean, it could be entirely inaccurate. I don't think she's older than 25. She could be 30, but I think it's very unlikely. And basically it's from size, skin condition, the shape of the back and the head. They get much more angular as they get older, and they also tend not to stop growing. I mean, they will slow down growing towards the end, but they do get taller and bigger for their whole lives. You can see an old elephant. An old elephant looks like an old human being. There's that little wound that I told you about earlier. Now, I think that's a spike from a tusk. I think something's had a go at her there. Marvellous to have some elephants again. Sometimes, in a situation like this, Paula, when there are 3 elephants, I mean, if some fate was to befall the 2 calves here, she might live a solitary life, but most likely what will happen is that she would join another herd. When they get very old, however, then they do tend to leave the herd and go off towards softer foods on the rivers, where they eventually die. But that's the only kind of real reason a female would choose to live on her own. It would be very unusual for a female in good health to decide to live entirely on her own. Oh, look, there we go. He's just trying to test his strength. Now, I know that my parents, and certainly many of you on a Sunday afternoon, would have had a substantial nap. The elephants, Panzer, is that the name? Panzer? The elephants tend not to have an enormous sleep during the afternoon, and in fact, Panjack, sorry, they sleep very little. And it seems to be that the bigger a mammal is, the less it will sleep. And so I don't think that they sleep often for more than 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day. And when they're smaller, they sleep for much longer than that. So no, I don't think they would doze much during the day. I have seen big bulls sitting on very hot days. I'll stand in the shade and they're just sort of, you can see they're just not with it. They're flapping their wings, their ears, and then they're just kind of fast asleep. So that's what they do. But they don't sleep fully during the day. And in fact, a big bull elephant will sleep very little compared with a human being. All right, they've gone off into the thickets. I think we're going to press on, see what else we can find. We might see if we can head towards those big male lions at Chitwa. Oh, wrong gear. No. I believe Steve has done very interesting things. He has changed position.
Yes, well, Tandy got up and moved, and she's now hugging her little carcass. And for the sensitive viewers, you might not want to look at this now, but to look away if you need to. But here is the steenbok's face, which has been badly munched on by Tandy. Such an evil-looking look on it now. It is obviously very dead. But it's her prize. Poor little female steenbok has fallen victim to the claws of this very good and professional hunter. She is repositioned and having a nice sort of sit down in the tree. She's looking a little bit more comfortable than she was. Look at that, eh? What a queen, eh? What a queen. Alexander, 5 years old. No, leopards, I don't believe, get more spots. They just grow into the spots more, and the spots get bigger and spread out. When we see Tlalamba, you'll see how many spots she's got. And those spots, just like the fur and the body, everything just expands and stretches. they're very spotty at birth, and if anything, they get more golden in between the spots. They're quite dark when they're younger. I think it aids in camouflage and also keeping them a little bit warmer, because darker fur is more insulating than lighter fur. What has she spotted? Is she calling there? I wonder if she was looking to call. I think Tlalamba moved off sort of northeast from where we are now. She's not looking in that general direction, but it's a good chance that she circled around and is maybe coming back. She's definitely interested in something, but there was also hyenas this morning. Tandy might have spotted hyena. She might have even spotted another animal to prey on, such as a duiker or another steenbok. Or an impala, who knows? But she's definitely showing some sort of interest there. And Pamjack leopards can hunt daily. They don't need to, but they can hunt twice in a day, 3 times a day. It all depends on the conditions, the animals that they are hunting. I've seen a leopard up a tree with a baby zebra and 2 warthogs, and we saw it catch that zebra in the morning, and then successfully. We didn't see it catch the warthogs, but they were there up in the tree with the zebra from the morning. So, and then they can also go days without hunting. So condition plays a big part, not just the condition of the leopard, but condition of the prey animals. As winter gets more and more dry and more harsh, your prey animals are weaker and much easier to catch. But then at the same time, the cover is blown a little bit for the leopards, and they have to work a little bit harder to hunt. Ooh, that was a beautiful yawn. So there's nothing to stop her from hunting with a kill. I mean, for example, I'm really surprised that she's still got meat here, because she's eating again now. Because a steenbok is not a huge animal, and she's been with it for 2 days or something. There we go. She's calling. So I think she was already full when she caught this. There, she's busy calling her cub. Let's listen. Sorry, you might hear a vehicle. They're getting a little bit stuck over there. It's very sandy. They just need to engage their low range. She's coming down the tree. Should I move forward, Seb? You want me to stay there? We'll stay right there. Okay, I'm just going to move. See how she disappears in the long grass there? Very difficult to spot the spots. So you're being very opportunistic hunters. They will hunt as many times as they need to, and if something just comes around while they're in a tree with a kill and a full, there's nothing to stop them going down and stalking and hunting again. Listen, she's calling. No, Lily, there's not too much left. There's still a little bit. She's not giving it up yet. She is calling her daughter to come and eat. Her daughter should not leave the table without finishing her meal. Here she comes, Seb.
Yeah.
Here she comes. Just in the long grass here. Between the bush. There we go. You got it? Yes. Tlalamba. Hello, my gorgeous. Now, I don't know how I spotted her there. I think I felt her looking at me. There she's running. She's going to do a loop around. She's going to come back to Mum. And Mum is going to give her a little cuddle and say, where you've been, you naughty girl. She's going to come through the vegetation there. Let's see if you can spot her coming, folks. This is going to be a bit of a show because she is extremely camouflaged. Tandy's in the same place. Tlalamba's directly in front of us now. There she is. There she is. Well done, Seb. She's coming all the way around. Mum is calling with the steenbok in her mouth. Sorry if my head gets in the way. I'm so excited. Tandy's in the same place. She's just here. Good girl, Tandy. Here she comes. There she is there. There she is. I'm just going to move forward because Shani's going to get her in the open here. She's going to come out, is she? Don't go in there, Tandy. That's very thick bush. Your little cub's about to sneak up behind you. There she comes, Seb. There she comes. Yes. Give me my meat, Mum. That's what she's just said. Giraffe girl, my heart is bursting with happiness as well. I'm so happy to see this cub alive. There was some doubt for some time and we weren't able to see her, but them being out here in this sort of area, it's very hard to find them out here. Look at this vegetation. They're right there. They're right there. And unless Seb zooms in, you can't see it. Now the cub is in the long grass feeding on that steenbok, and you can't even see her. There she is. Sorry about my brakes. Hello, gorgeous mama. This is the best thing ever. She has grown so much. She's so cheeky. She's been off gallivanting. And she's still little. She's still little. I was thinking after 2 months she would have grown more. But, I mean, I want to see her in the open. But she's still very little. She's definitely becoming a little leopardess. She's going to get Aubrey, one of the game viewers. He's just coming in to join us. Orbs, you can just come around this side, eh? Okay, well, it looks like Ralph has found, and we're looking to make a promise to all of you. Let's go see what he's found.
That I have indeed, everybody. Here we are, next to a termite mound, but a termite mound that's got quite a big cavity in it over there. Now, there is nobody else that could make a cavity like that other than an aardvark. So, whoever was looking for an aardvark burrow, here is one. And, well, let's have a look inside there. It is quite deep. That goes in for at least 1 meter and 1.5 meters as I put the light on it, and then it goes up and around the corner. Now, the reason behind that is you want to have that little bowl there at the bottom so that it goes up. So when it rains, the water will obviously sit in that little bowl, and you can then get up and be high and dry. And that's what the aardvark has done. And afterwards, warthogs can also use this burrow, and they do something similar as well. They'll also make a little ledge like that, so especially the piglets can go and sit up on that little ledge because they don't have as much meat on them as mommy does, and they need to sit up nice and warm out of the water. Sometimes mommy will sit in that bowl, and she will then, but she's got enough meat on her to stay warm even when she's wet. But the little piglets up out on the dry stuff. There's a lot of animals that will use aardvark burrows, so they are the unsung heroes of the bush, because not only warthogs will use them, jackals will use them to den in. We've seen that many times before. Hyenas, we've seen that here on Djuma plenty as well. Leopards will put their cubs in these aardvark burrows too. I'm sure lots of you have seen that. Even lions will do that as well. Honey badgers. Can I think of any other mammals? If we go on to reptiles, we talk about the monitor lizards. They can use that as their home. Black mambas and other different snakes will also use that to hibernate in. Then we also talk about birds. There's a couple of birds that will use this as a nesting site. One being the blue swallow, and another one being the South African shell duck. So there is a number of animals that really rely on aardvark. And you know what? There's some that even don't exist where you don't get aardvark. Now, Paula, this kind of hole here is generally the size of an aardvark burrow, but the question remains, how big does it get on the inside? Well, it all depends on how many the little aardvark has in his family, or if he's making it as a den site. Mostly, they dig just an evening shelter that they'll go in overnight, and then they'll move on. But when they make themselves an actual den site, it can be rather large on the inside. So they are fascinating. And I tell you what, you don't get many warthog where you don't get aardvark, because they are almost solely reliant on an aardvark for their burrows. Yes, they will excavate a little bit more around it and on the inside, but they cannot dig that with their snout, which is what they use to excavate. So just imagine trying to excavate this massive hole here entirely with your snout. Now, Kathy, I've seen quite a number of aardvark in my life, mostly at night, okay, and being quite lucky here in the Kruger Park, but I haven't seen most of them here in this area that we're in right now. I've seen one or two at night, but in the Eastern Cape, where I am from, it is quite unusual there. We see a lot of aardvarks. And one of my friends and a mentor for me as well, Dale Geldenhuys, that I used to work with, try and say that one, Geldenhuys, a very good friend of mine, and he's more experienced than me. He had been working in the bush for almost 20 years, and he had never seen an aardvark. He had seen the tracks, and we used to laugh at him because we often had the tracks going past his tent in the morning, and we used to say to him, Dale, didn't you see that one? But no, so they're very secretive, very difficult to see, but they leave their signs all over the place, and such wonderful burrow diggers. They're very important for the ecosystem out here. Now, there is one little thing I do want to show you just before you go off to all the other exciting things, and this is just one of the things that is so impressive in the bush. When a little bird finds a buffalo thorn, which is full of thorns there, and he makes his little nest up in there. Now, I'm sure this is something like a terrestrial brown bull or something along those lines, because it's a very sticky nest, but I'm not going to attempt to climb in the tree because I think I might disturb it. But I'm pretty sure there's a cup or a bowl on the inside, so it looks a little bit haphazard on the outside, but I think on the inside there it is quite bowl shaped and quite organized, and maybe even some spider web to make it soft on the inside there, and that's something looking like a little terrestrial brown bull. But what a clever way to defend your nest, nice inside a buffalo thorn tree. It's just absolutely fascinating how nature works, huh? So we go from one amazing thing, the aardvark burrow, and we've spotted now a little, I think, a terrestrial brown bull nest in this buffalo thorn. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've fulfilled the one promise. We need to start looking for some special insects, don't we?
Yeah, well, Tlalamba has come out, and Tandy has provided her with the remainder of that steenbok. But now they are both, well, Tandy's lying flat, and Tlalamba's in there somewhere. There she is, busy feeding on the remains of the steenbok. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's just this little sound as she's munching on the bone or the skin. Tandy was so accommodating, bringing it down for her, saying, "Come on, child, it's time to eat." Most parents will understand that. The kids are too busy having fun to remember to eat. Child of the universe, most cats have the protractile claws. Cheetah, their claws don't go back because they are not true cats. They stay out very much like a dog, same as hyena, and that is to give them grip, just like when we wear studs in our shoes for running, gives them grip for speed and running along the ground. Whereas cats like leopard, lion, house cats, wildcats, genets. They all have very sharp protractile claws, which enables them to climb trees and also potentially to catch their prey, which they then grab onto with both feet, front and back. And the leopard and the domestic cat have that very good ability to grab something with the front paws and then sort of eviscerate the stomach with their back feet, which is always quite fun. My cat used to do it to me all the time when it suddenly kind of lost its mind and suddenly attack my hand and then clawed it all over the place. And that is purely a function of ability to help them climb. If they can't climb, and not easy for them to get away, a leopard needs to be able to take its food up the tree. We've seen cheetah lose their prey many times because they don't take their prey up the tree, and leopards are able to then feed on their prey for days and days and days. Just have another vehicle coming in to join us. Taxon from Vuyatela. The vegetation is very thick around here, and you have to be very careful because, as Ralph is talking about the aardvark burrows, there's lots and lots of aardvark burrows all around here, so repositioning might be quite tricky. But while we stay here and hope the little youngster comes out, let's go over to James and see what he's up to.
Well, we're approaching the site of the Avoca Males. I believe that they are flatter than the proverbial pancake. In other words, they are very enthusiastically performing the way that lions do best. But nevertheless, we shall assess them, and perhaps we shall even be able to give them some kind of characterization. I don't think we've quite got a handle on who's who yet amongst the coalition. I just need to find out the correct road. I'm not very good at my roads on Chitwa at the moment. I think they're along here somewhere. They're on a road called Mike's Kitchen, which is quite interesting. Just hope I can find Mike's Kitchen. I think it's down this way. I hope it's down this way. My only doubt is that there are hundreds of general game individuals around here. There are waterbuck and nyala and impala. In fact, masses of impala. A wildebeest. It's not looking very hopeful at this stage. Might have to consult my map actually. Let me open this up. Right, maps. I also think I'm getting a flat tire. That's really not good. I see this particular map doesn't have any road names on it, so that's not very good. I would have thought it was down here. I might be wrong. There are masses of general game. I think I would have thought that was Mike's Kitchen over there. Let's just stop here for a second. There are some animals, and you can see we just passed that little sort of bush dinner site, and I think that is Mike's Kitchen as far as I understand it. This is a classic Sabi sand picture. The bull wildebeest hopefully waiting for females to come and see him and making sure that he's safe by lurking around with a herd of impala. And he's just scraping his pedal glands on the ground there to make sure that any other bull wildebeest that comes past here knows that he is in charge of this territory, devoid as it is of females. Now, what you see in the background there are the most common antelope that we get here. Of course, those are the impala, and they are cheetah cat, the ecological equivalent of springbok in this area. We do not see any springbok in the Kruger Park area. In fact, they only occur where the rainfall is probably about 400 millimeters and below. So they are a truly desert-adapted species, which the impala are inescapably not. And so for those of you who don't know, a springbok is basically, it's the only southern African gazelle that we get. And it is our national animal, but you don't get any of them over here. Alright, let's keep moving and see if we can't find where these lions are. Got a nasty feeling I may have the road wrong, but, you know, we'll figure it out eventually. I'm sure, I hope. Nice place to have supper, especially when it's nearing full moon as it is now. One second, let me just reverse here. Alright, let me try and figure out where Mike's kitchen is exactly. In the meantime, let's see if Ralph can find any other kind of kitchen where he is on foot.
Well, everyone, we've just been looking for all these little insects, but I can tell you at this time of year, things start to get a little bit quiet on the insect front in this part of the world, because a lot of these insects that we have here are summer active. So, like the dung beetles, like a lot of the spiders, and the centipedes, millipedes, we don't really see them in winter. So it's actually quite tough to find insects as we head into autumn and going into winter. It's quite difficult. We don't see any more of the dung beetles at all. They're already gone. They're actually, it's been a week or two since we've seen any at all. But here comes some elephant dung up front here, and that's normally a hot spot for little insects and critters on the inside. So let's have a look. We don't want to disturb them too much because, you know, it's also their little home. So if we just lift it up, normally we can place it straight back underneath afterwards. Now there's a little ant's nest, and these look like they could be harvester ants. Look nice and closely in there. This is still reasonably fresh elephant dung as well. It's not terribly old. It's not terribly fresh, but it's not terribly old, should I say that. It's still a bit moist. But also when you lift up something like this, you also want to be a little bit careful, because you are messing with quite a few insects and things home. So what I do is I normally just put it up on its side, have a look, and then you can just try and place it back exactly where you found it. But we do want to have a look and see what is happening around there. And you see all of these little ants. What they're doing is they're also taking little grass clippings down, but they're not feeding on it as the termites would do. They're able to digest cellulose a little bit better than the termites. So they're not using those fungus gardens. And these ants can also be forming a big part of the aardvark's diet come winter time. So in summer they feed predominantly on termites, but in winter they can start to go a lot more onto these little ants. Now I think we'll just close up there and just let them get back to their business. And let's lift this one up and just see if there's anything else running around. But as I say, you see it's very... Oh, there's more ants. Okay, so that's another little ant nest. But there's not a hell of a lot of other things around. Let's have a look here. Gary, I haven't particularly found any fossils in the bush. We have seen some that have been fossilized into rocks in Namibia, little snails and fish and so on. But what we do find quite a lot around these areas here are the old a human habitation where the people have made stone tools and also pottery. There's a lot of that around the Kruger National Park area, especially up the northern part in the Makuleki. So that's mostly what we found. Let's see a lot of ant activity around these elephant dungs. And normally, if this was in full summer or springtime, a lot of this dung would have been worked by the dung beetles. So at the moment now, it's actually just going down more so to the little ants and the harvester ants. So they do continue through the winter a little bit, but they find places like under a nice elephant dung, and so they do assist a little bit in the decomposition of this energy that has now been placed here, and they also use it as a very good nesting site. So we're still on the hunt for some interesting insects, but they're all interesting in their own right. Even though they're quite common, these harvester ants, they're still fulfilling a very important role. Magic Dragon Wizard, I'm going to find you a plant that acts as an antiseptic. This one over here is not one of those that acts as an antiseptic. However, very easy to identify. And when I used to teach my students, as soon as you see this, you've got three main veins coming from the base. You see that? 1, 2, 3. And we say black monkey orange. So it's a black monkey orange, nice simple leaf with three main veins coming from the base, black monkey orange. You see nice straight branches. These trees are the ones that they produce a very nice round fruit, very hard outer casing, and they very often hollow them out, and then they can be used as souvenirs or salt and pepper pots. So very nice, black monkey orange. The one that I'm looking for is actually the sickle bush. The sickle bush is the pharmacy of the bush, and when I find one, I'm going to show you. I'm not seeing any around here. That is an acacia because it's got thorns on it, not spines. We're looking for the one that looks similar, the sickle bush, but it doesn't have thorns, it has spines. Now, what is the difference? Well, a thorn is a modified leaf, and a spine is a modified branch. So a thorn grows next to an axillary bud, whereas a spine grows from an axillary bud. I'm getting very technical now. Let's just look for that sickle bush, which I'm not seeing for the minute. Okay, while I look for my sickle bush, and I'm sure I'm going to find one just up ahead here, let's head on over to James with those wonderful cats.
Well, they might be wonderful when they're sitting up doing something useful, but this thing barely opened its eyes as we drove in. It's one of the Avoca Males. I'm told the other two are here. I can see one, but I cannot see the third. Anyway, we have lions. It's good. It's getting cooler. Sun's starting to set. Possibly good for us to settle in for the long haul, if not too many people want to come in here. And just as you look at that flat cat there, at least you can see the vegetation, which tends not to run away or go to sleep, but it is starting to turn. Can you see that? We're getting the autumnal colours here, and we don't get great sprays of burgundies and pinks and things that you do in in the northern reaches of the world. It just kind of goes yellow and then leaves fall off. Puma, you say, OMG, James found them. Well, I don't know whether to be insulted or pleased by that comment. Puma, I didn't actually find them. Somebody told me where they were, and I had quite a lot of help from David, who was here this morning. Thank you, David. Well, they're having a very nice long Sunday siesta. And in fact, one would question whether they were in fact still extant if one didn't know that they were alive, wouldn't you? I'm not sure that we'll spend too long here. I think we'll probably go back towards the waterhole, see if Hosanna doesn't pop his head out. Apparently he was around here earlier today. But Hosanna on the hunt will be inescapably more entertaining than this lot. Now, I thought yesterday when I was on my walk that the roaring sound of lions in the distance was these guys calling, Joyce. And that would have signified, of course, that they were solidifying their domain. But I was then told subsequently that it wasn't them, because I think Steve was quite close to them, if not actually with them, when I heard that roar. So I don't know for sure. I think somebody's told me that he's heard them roaring. In fact, we have definitely heard them roaring. Yeah, we know they have roared. And I think there's probably been very little response. And so here they remain. Very comfortable. I think the next step, I think that they are going to be here to stay. I can't see any reason for them not to stay around if the Birminghams don't come back up north. And I can't see any reason why the Birminghams would come back up north. And so let us assume that these fat fellows take over here. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the young members of the Nkuhumas, as I said yesterday during our character catch-up show. It's, I think the youngest cub is, how old is the youngest cub? The youngest cub must be just under a year, I would have thought. And then the rest of them are almost 2. Now, I think they'll be okay. But the youngest cub could still be in trouble. That is the sound of an aeroplane coming over, everybody. Sorry about that. Now, I suppose the obvious question for those of you who haven't been watching for a long time is, where are the Birmingham boys? Well, at the moment we think they are down south on the Sand River, probably close to the salubrious environs of Olondolozi or Singita or Mala Mala. Very famous names, those. Oh, is there mud here, is there? Senzo was just telling me that there's mud on my jacket. Now it's on his jacket. And, sorry about that. In fact, there's more than that on his jacket. I took us through some fairly muddy patches earlier. Sorry about that. So I think that's where they are. And that hole, in case you missed the discussion, that hole's been created by the demise of the long-standing Majingelane coalition. And so I think that's left a void for the Birmingham boys of probably 2 or 3 prides in a very prey-rich environment. And I think that's just where they're hanging out. I think it's probably a slightly more, one hesitates to say a better choice of territory, but I think there's more opportunity for them down there than there is up here. And so I think these guys are just going to drift in here without too much of a fight. Well, as we sit here, all of us wondering when they're going to get up and do something, of course lions can sleep for up to 20 hours of the day, Marcy, and so to say that they would get up at any specific time to go hunting would be incorrect. And I mean, we have sat with flat cats leap into the evening thinking, well, they're definitely going to get up now. They're so hungry. They must start hunting now. Ooh, it's getting dark. They're definitely going to get up now. Ooh, they're turning around and stretching a little bit. They're definitely going to get up now. I need to watch them fall fast asleep again. So it really is difficult to say. These guys look fairly fat to me, and I don't think they're in need of a huge meal. They could conceivably sleep here for the rest of the night. But I suspect they will get up as the sun goes down and as it gets dark. And let me just check my time. I mean, that's only going to be, the sun will go down in about 20 minutes or so. Now, Djuma is about 1,200 hectares, Chitwa about 800 hectares, so that gives us a total traversing area of 200 hectares, or about 5,000 acres. And, sorry, I missed the name there. Was it Jamelia? Dranelia? Bromelia? Vanilla. Vanilla, like vanilla, but with a mix-up of the back letters. Very nice, vanilla. Vanilla. So, you know, Djuma and Chitwa together are not large enough to house one pride in this area. You'd probably find a pride like the Nkuhumas has got a territory of about 8,000 to 10,000 acres, about, what is that, say 3,500 hectares or so. And so Djuma doesn't have a number of prides, but the boundary between the Styx Pride and the Nkuhuma Pride runs pretty much along the line where those elephants were walking today, just south of an area called Twin Dams. And if I hadn't handed over my map to Steve, I could show you where I meant by that. But it's you know, you can check it out on Google Earth if you want to. You can see all of those landmarks. And then the Nkuhuma Pride territory goes way into the west and north of us, and the Styx Pride, obviously, we're in the Styx Pride territory now. Remember, and this is very NB for anybody who's interested in lions, males are not part of the pride, and that's really important for people to realize. They are extra to the pride. They form a coalition like this one here, and in their domain will fall anything between 1 and 4 prides, maybe, and up to 5, perhaps in some cases. Certainly the Majingalan had at least 5 in their territory. These chaps here, at the moment, if they do take this territory, will have the Styx and the Nkuhumas, and perhaps the Torchwood Pride as well. That will be their domain. But a lot of their activity will take place off Djuma. Now Ralph has managed to achieve the impossible. He seems to have found a puddle.
Yes, everyone, I have indeed found a puddle, but it's a very interesting puddle at that. It's got lots of algae in it, and that's probably as a result of this little puddle or pond being in the full sunlight day in and day out, so it probably gets rather warm in the water here. But quite interesting, there's all sorts happening in this little pond. Apart from the algae, there's little insects on top of the water that they obviously aren't breaking the surface of the water, and they're able to run on top. And those are like little pond skaters and midges. But there is a little character that we're waiting for him to poke his head up any minute now above the surface of the water, because he needs to come up for a breath. So we're just waiting for him. He went under a little minute ago, and we're going to just wait a little while, and I'm sure he's going to pop up. But there are all sorts of little insects. We often get the pond skaters, as I mentioned, but while we're waiting for him to pop his head up, there's another little guy here that's just in one of these little tracks here, and that's actually in the track of the animal that I'm talking about, that we're waiting for him to come up. Oh, it looks like he's almost attacking my stick. So that is a little spider. I'm not sure on the exact kind. It might be one of the little fishing spiders. Oh, straight along the surface of the water there. Now, the difference between an insect and a spider, well, an arachnid got 8 body parts, and 4 body parts versus 3 body parts of the insects, as well as they've got 8 legs and the insects have got 6. So a couple of little differences there. And that little spider there is one of the more primitive of the 2 groups of spiders. We get mygalomorphs and araneomorphs. Mygalomorphs are the primitive ones. They don't build nests or webs. webs, they stay on the ground and they actively hunt out their prey, like that little guy was doing there. He was just waiting there in ambush for maybe one of these little midges to come along, and maybe he could catch it there. Araneomorphs, they build their webs and they stay up almost vertical, most of them, but some of them also do hang upside down and do all sorts of funny things. But where is our character that's going to pop his head up? I'm just waiting for him. There's lots of bubbles, and that can be all sorts of things. Oxygen being released out of the mud below with the roots of the plants that are all growing in the area here. They could be releasing a little bit of oxygen and hydrogen. And he's now acting a little bit like Scuba Steve, the hippo. He's being all shy as soon as we put the camera on. But come on, poke your head up. But you see, don't just walk past a little pond like this. There's all sorts happening. I think we're going to be out of luck. He's holding his breath for quite a long time now. Surely. Okay, everyone, I think we're out of luck. He's given us the slip, as per usual. Just my luck, eh? But anyway, from one little body of water to another, off to Steve.
Yes, well, we have managed to find the gang of geese once again. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear we're about to get a flyby of a hammerkop. That wasn't very easy to see. He was just flying straight at us there, but we are looking at the gang of geese, and they are still 7. Dad is nowhere to be seen though, so there's a concern. But Mom, or we think it's Mom, we've just been with them as they just careened through the beautiful green water in the afternoon sun. And now they're on the other side, drying themselves off in a very strange place. They could still be in the sunshine if they're on the opposite side of the dam. But at least we know that the parenting is going well. She seems to be looking left and right and everywhere. Where has Dad gone off to? Has he gone for a cheeky one down the road? Seb giggles. That knowing giggle of a father, hey Seb? Just a quick cheeky one. Kathy and Paula, yes, there are still 7. We're going to try and make a daily thing. Try and catch up on these geese and see how they are doing. These are the days of the geese lives, it seems. And in they go again. Fantastic. We were hoping for that. Oh, and we've got our one hippo here who doesn't want to lose any thunder. He wants to be the star of the show as well. And chances are if we keep the frame on him, he will not do that again. But the geese are cruising again. Seems like absolutely no reason why they went all the way across there. Probably left Dad, he was following, and then Mum has looked back and been like, Dad has slipped us. There we go, is she calling? What's she doing? Dad has slipped the geese, and he's off. Wow. They're making a noise. Okay, I don't know. You want to know the gender of Egyptian geese? I've never actually spent any time trying to identify male and female. I've always just noticed that the female, or they all seem to hang around 1. So I'll have a look. I don't think that there is a difference. I can't remember it. Let me tell you now. No. Okay, so basically the male is larger with a thicker neck. And it's definitely the call, and the female is smaller with a slimmer neck. So it's very hard to say, but they do have a different call. The male is not as loud and raucous as the female's call, but they look the same. The only reason I think, or say a female, is because the youngsters seem to be hanging around closer to 1. So I can only assume it's Mum. So sorry, Kay, I can't give you any definitive answers there. Well, we moved off from Tandy and Cub just to allow other vehicles a moment. We thought we'd come and check on the geese and the lone hippo. Andreen, I'm not sure how long they'll stay with the parents, but a couple months or so. They are looking after themselves, really. They're already feeding themselves. Andreen, they're already feeding. She's just keeping a watchful eye. But soon they'll fledge and they'll get bigger and they'll be able to fend for themselves and go off and find a mating pair for themselves for their life. But definitely the next few months or so. Okay, so we're going to leave here, head back to Tandy now with some nice afternoon sun, and let's go to something flatter than the water, James and his lions.
Well, there's some movement there, everybody. The aeroplane is taking off and it has disturbed this male lion, who opened his eyes and then moved his head downwards and then flicked his ear. Oh! Senzor's heart rate is through the roof. He can barely control his excitement. David tried to climb off the car in terror at the lion moving his ear like that. I had to save them. And Luke, who's a new director, of course, says that it would be a great idea to do an unscheduled broadcast to Facebook with these lions because the sighting is so action-packed. I couldn't agree more, Luke. Let's go live to every page we can. This is not a sighting you're going to see very often. You will seldom see such impressive sleeping skills on anything other than either a Wild Earth presenter or a deeply drunk teenager. Lovely, you want to know about the names of these cats, and in fact, I think last week during our show there were some names suggested. What were they? They were, I forget exactly what they were. They were quite funny though. We named them after avos, that's right. It was, there we go, Guacamole, Chip and Dip. That is not an official name of these animals. They are not called Guacamole, Chip and Dip. They have yet to be named, and I think we should probably get on to that process fairly soon. We should possibly name them after different synonyms for sleep. Slumber, passed out, dead. That's what we should call them. Minamu. I always laugh when I hear that name because I'm not sure if you realize Minamu. Maybe you've named yourself after this Afrikaans cartoon that I used to watch as a child. It was called Minamu, and the theme tune is stuck in my head and will be forever, lamentably so. They will get their full manes probably in about 3 years or so. They will start to look full-maned in about 1.5 years or so, I guess. That'll probably be when you'd expect them to have the good sort of Birmingham-sized males, but they'll keep growing for the rest of their days. So that's what will happen there. So I'm not sure where the third one is. And there's also that chap's just flicking his tail. I'm just going to move everyone because there are 2 other vehicles here and I just want to get out the way, otherwise no one else is going to be able to see them. As I do that, the question of cubs has been raised by Sharon, and whether this lot would be able to sire cubs. Yes, technically they have the equipment and the maturity to sire cubs at this stage, but whether or not they would be able to convince a pride of females to allow that, I'm not really sure. I still can't see number 3. Anyway, that's what's going on here. All I'm saying there is that until they take over territory, until the pride females decide that they are going to accept them as male, well, they don't have to accept them, but until they are able to kind of impose themselves on the pride, they won't breed then, no. Okay. What kind of car is that? Ah, it's a converted Ford. It's quite nice. Alright, everybody, I think let's leave at the moment, simply because There's quite a lot of pressure being brought to bear on them, so let's just head out. We'll try and come back perhaps when it gets a bit darker, and we'll see if they don't get up. While we head out of here, they do have these wispy sort of teenagerish type manes. They're not that wispy, they're getting there. And Taya, I think they're probably pretty similar to the mane sizes of the Birminghams at the same age. I'm just trying to remember, we did meet the Birminghams at roughly the same age. The Birminghams, I think, were a little bit older than these guys when we first met them, but roughly the same age, yeah. And roughly the same kind of mane. So there was just a bit too much pressure going on there because they were in that big thicket, and I think we were hemming them in, so I just thought, let's just head out of here. Alrighty, we're going to go down towards Chitwa Dam and see if we can't pick up some alarm calls from Hosana, perhaps.
Now, look at this, everybody. There is a lot of ants here up on the tops of these grass stalks. And they're not... They look like they might be cocktail ants. They're not cocking their abdomen upwards. They're cocking it downwards. So this is a strange species of ants, and they're doing strange things here as well. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. Initially, I thought they were gathering the seed husks or the seeds from the grass, but now it doesn't look like they are. You know, normally ants are very, very important for the ecosystem because they will gather a lot of seeds and they take it down underground, and they do feed on the husk and leaving the seed behind. And then you've got all these seeds that remain in chambers underneath the ground. And if there are times of drought, well, I tell you, there can be even past 10 years can pass. And if there then is some rain, you've got from these pockets of seeds that the ants have stored below the ground, you can have the revival of many different grass species. But what these guys are doing now, I'm not quite sure. Some of them are carrying other ants. And a moment ago, we did see a procession of matabele ants come across the road. Now, I'm wondering if these guys have all climbed up on top of these grass stalks and so on to get away from them. Because matabele ants are ruthless, as the name suggests. Matabele was an offshoot of the Zulu tribe. But they, as that tribe moved through southern Africa, they decimated all the villages and tribes that they came across. So the matabele ants are quite similar in what they do. They also decimate all the little other ants that they find, ants and termites, and they steal all their eggs and pupa, and they'll eat that. Now, Linda, I agree with you. Absolutely amazing, aren't these ants? Very cool. And what would we do without them? They, you know, people think that sometimes they're pests in their garden because they do cut a lot of the grass and so on in little patches. But it's still, we need them to, you know, keep the balance in the ecosystem. And there's so many different species of ants that we know nothing about. And also, their communication is one of the most complex of all the animal kingdom. And in fact, in the world, bees and ants and these kind of little creatures have got the most complex communication system. It's all about smells and dances and how you move, etc. They've got a caste system, so you've got soldiers, you've got workers, you've got reproductives, and everybody just selflessly goes about their business and their job. And it just works like clockwork. Nobody complains. Everybody just does their job. It's quite interesting. My little boy watches Bee Movie quite regularly. And yes, sorry, can you just repeat that question for me? I'm asking for a question. Ivy's got a question for us, and I just want to. Now, Ivy, you want to know if they ever rest? Well, that's a very good question. I don't think that they completely rest, no. But I do. There is a definite time of very low activity, and because they are also ectothermic. So when it's very cold, they are very, they don't have much activity at all. They do still move around though, but as they warm up, then they will have more activity. And that's often why they stay under the ground, because then they maintain their warmth, and they can then also keep their activity up below the surface of the soil. And out here on top, these ants are all doing strange things. Yes, my little boy, he watches B-movie quite regularly. He's a little 3-year-old, and he loves Barry B, and it's just I think it's a fascinating movie. It just really puts it into perspective as well, in a very humorous way. But the caste system and how things are just done without questioning, eh? And I think ants very similar, as well as wasps, but ants and bees, very complex. Love app, good question there. Queens, they can live for many, many years because they've fed and they've fattened up, and I've heard that they can even live over 10 years. And a colony is all dependent on having a queen. So if a queen is getting in trouble or getting sick and not producing properly, well, the colony is then sick as a whole. So it's very important for them to also maintain and get more reproductives. Now look out over here, there's a lot of them all on top of these little flower pods. It's really interesting, and they don't seem to be doing anything obvious. So that is very intriguing indeed. And well, everyone, from those exciting little critters, we're going to head off down the road and see what else we can find. But, very exciting, Steve's found something wonderful for you.
Yes, we have, and she seems to have wrestled away the remainder of the steenbok carcass from Tlalamba, and there is no sign of the little devil anywhere. We are back on the scene. The other vehicles have since left, just in time to spot her before the night shrouds over. And I have no doubt this will be the final feeding she has on this little carcass. There's not too much there. She keeps turning up and sticking up her head and looking around. It's a vulnerable time for her. Hyenas are lurking. Well, they were this morning anyway, and this is the time they would come back again. But she is right at the base of a marula tree. She could spring up there in seconds. And that is why they choose to feed at the base of trees like that, if they don't hoist, so that they can escape if they need to. They're very alert. You can see her ears are always checking every sound in the background. Martha, how many leopards can live in an area, you would like to know? Well, it all depends on the food resource and the habitat availability. And, I mean, we have the potential to see 9 or 12 leopards in and around this area. So it's a marvelous number. There is an enormous number of small animal species in the form of scrub hares, steenbok, duiker, impala. So the food availability is really, really good. That's what enables us to have so many spotted cats in one place. But it all depends on the resources. And the fact is that the habituation of leopards have been going for so long that we know the leopards and find them all the time. So they're quite relaxed. So we get to at least account for how many leopards there are. There's other reserves I've been to that you don't know how many leopards are because they're not relaxed. So Benjamin, these leopards are related. The leopards in Southeast Asia are actually subspecies, and there's not too much different in them. I think there's maybe a small bit of weight in the Indian leopard, but I think comparatively they're pretty much the same thing. It's just separated by geographical time. But then, we've also got a species of leopard down in the Cape in South Africa that is exactly related to this, but genetically they are much smaller, and that's because their prey food is far smaller in size. They're about half the size of these guys, so they're very, very small, the Cape leopard, although they are the same species, but just through geographical separation and food availability and food size, they've evolved to be a much smaller cat. How beautiful is she? See, she's very alert. Very, very alert. Nice to see you, Tandy. It's been some time. She's even more alert because she's got a cub somewhere around here. So she'll be wondering what it's up to, first of all. But we've seen her climbing. She climbs the trees pretty well, so if anything did happen to spook her, she would immediately get up into the safety of the tree canopy. And interestingly enough, we don't see too many male leopards on this side of the property. I think Djuma occurs this side up into Buffelshoek. Not that I've ever seen him before, but also because the vegetation is so thick here, it's very hard to really figure out where the leopards are coming and going on our eastern boundary. Beautiful habitat for them. Okay, well, it seems like James has left his lions, but I believe he's still on Chitwa, so let's go see what he's up to.
We're having the most wonderful time here at the waterhole, watching the baby hippos there, all of whom were too small to leave their mothers sort of a few months ago, now living in this little pod in the shallows next to that island, and I think there are about 6 of them. And they're having such a fun little play. That one is just yawning a little bit. You saw him sticking his tongue around. They've been pushing each other about. And the biggest one closest to us, I think, is a sort of sub-adult. And he's just kind of watching over these chaps and bullying them a bit from time to time. There's one's underneath the... I think that thing's fallen over a bit as well. In fact, it definitely has. That tree that those guys are playing around with, I think they've been digging away slowly, unintentionally at its base. And it's started to lean heavily. And you might also be able to get those kingfishers, can you, Senzo? Well done. 5 kingfishers. This is called advanced camera work, everybody. This is not for the faint at heart. There we go. He's even gone with a super zoom. Good grief, he's feeling brave this evening. Well done, Senzo. Excellent job. So there's the pied kingfishers, obviously having some kind of a spat. It is Sunday night, of course, the pressures of the week starting to build, and they're all, of course, talking about what they have to do. Oh, green-backed heron. Beautiful spot there, Senzo. Disappeared over the back of the dam wall. Go back to the hippopotami. Now, I don't know about any of you, and I think I've said this to a few of you before, but my very worst feeling as a child was Sunday evenings. The thought of going back to school after a fun weekend, especially as winter started to take a hold of Johannesburg, really was deeply miserable, and I actually used to get a kind of nauseous feeling in my belly. And it is such a magnificent feeling every Sunday evening out here when I realize and remember it, even though I left school some 25 years ago. It's such a great feeling to know that tomorrow I just get to do the same fun stuff again. Just look at these little chaps under the base of the tree there now. Oh, they're too cute. Now, you can see that those hippos are standing there, and I've said to you often that hippos cannot swim, as have all of the guides. And Kathy, it's got to do with their density. They just sink. They don't float. It's not that they can't swim. By that I mean it's not that they have an inability to swim, it's that they sink. And it's so that they can stay under the surface without sort of trying to, if you know what I mean. They can stay safe under the surface. So where they're standing there, they will just be able to kind of lie down and not float to the top. which you couldn't do. You would struggle to do that. They can absolutely move in the deeper water, and they run along the bottom and then push themselves up to the top, take a breath, and then sink down again. Elephants, as far as I understand it, can float. In fact, I'm not convinced they can, actually. I'm not convinced an elephant can swim like, say, a horse can swim. You hear stories of them crossing quite deep water, but with their trunks out of the water. And I'm not sure if they're walking on the bottom or if they're actually swimming. I've now got myself a bit confused. So, Kathy, I feel like some of those islands in Lake Kariba that the elephants go to and from, and in fact in the Zambezi River, must indicate that they can swim. Because unless they do the same thing that the hippos do, just walk along the bottom and push themselves up, I'm not sure. Look at those little things having a great time. The kingfisher's having a spat still. All the action going on in that tree. The darter sitting above. There he is. What a magical evening. Now, of course, no mammal is able to breathe under the water, and Pan-catch, the respiratory system of the animal is exactly the same on water and on land. They can obviously hold their breath for longer than you or I can, unless you were particularly good at holding your breath. I am not. And I'm sure they breathe pretty normally when they're on land. They don't have a different respiratory system. It's still uses the lungs. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure if I'm getting you correctly.